All right, Will Roberts Weekly Telegram, of course, acting up the show that if you are an actor, then you're in the right place. Wow, that got a good response.
Cheers!
Yeah, there you go.
That.
I've got my friends the Lushes here from New York City. Listen, so I'm here this whole week. I'm here for the last 3 or 4 days, just kind of filming a little thing with my roping, and that's film at 11. We'll talk about that later. So acting up the show about being an actor. Only serious actors should apply. So I'm here in New York on where are we on? 42nd? 48.
At Hurley's.
There it is. There we go. Where's this place?
Hurley's.
There we go. Great place to call a bar. Hurley's. Got it. Anyway, so I'm here with the person that actually we follow each other on Twitter. There's Erin. How are you, Erin?
Hello, I'm doing great.
Good. So we're here because I wanted to kind of talk and get the New York perspective of acting and performing. So I've gathered a bunch of these actors, and this is the cool thing. They do oh, by the way, you're going to see this, of course, on my YouTube channel and some other places that we do our thing, but you're also going to be able to see this, of course, on some of the community channels that we have around the country, syndicated. And if you're listening, you're probably listening to the Will Roberts Weekly Telegram on the stations that are around the country. So it's going to look like a TV thing and sound like a radio thing. So if I cut in and say, let's go to a break, you'll know why. All right. So, Erin, why don't you tell me a little bit about the group and what you all do and why you do it?
Oh, it's a loaded question, loaded with goodness.
Good.
Well, our theater company is called The Scene Place Theater, SEEING, not SCENE, although we do those too. Right. And we are an ensemble group here in New York. We're an independent theater company. We're raw, we're visceral, and we work together year-round, which is kind of different for New York theater. It's a lot of jobbers. You kind of do a job here, do a job there, but we're a group of hungry, excited artists that work together.
And you work.
We work, yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what does that mean when you work? I know that you told me earlier that you said that we take pieces that are actual pieces and you kind of, you don't block them, you don't get the normal rehearsal process. It's working in the confines of working in the theater, but you have the trust of your actors because you meet every Monday. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we do primarily published plays, which you're used to seeing where they're blocked, which means that you know exactly where we're gonna stand. Show on Tuesday and a show on Saturday are going to look and sound the same. Okay. And that sounds exciting because, well, you know the audience will get the same story, but what do you lose when you have the same exact story every time? We know we're living, breathing human beings, so how can I hit the same mark, do the exact same thing every day and still be authentic and still actually be an honest performer who's actually experiencing the things that we say we're experiencing? So we're kind of nutty in that we work together year-round to develop a language together, so that when we get on stage, we're using only the playwright's words, of course, because it's a published play. Right. But we don't have that blocking, so we can go anywhere we want on that stage, as long as we're still telling the story we're meant to tell, and we craft that in rehearsals. We don't have to cry on a certain line. We can cry if we want to. The most important thing is that we're honestly telling the story. If the character needs to be really connected emotionally to something, we do that. But that being sad doesn't always mean crying. Sometimes we laugh a lot when we're sad, and so we want the freedom to be able to do that.
So in reality, if you think about this is a little bit like reality theater as opposed to reality TV.
Yes.
Because you're working in the confines of your home, whatever they happen to call it in the reality TV world. Yep. And you have to really depend on your people listening and being able to respond genuinely, correct?
Exactly right.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I like about this is the fact that you meet every Monday. You said you're an actor-based group, which basically means that there isn't anybody saying you have to do this, it follows this curriculum, or it follows this thing, and you basically, again, you're kind of freestyling in a sense, but you're working on something that is constantly evolving?
Yes, absolutely. So we have It's not to say that we don't have a director, but the director is there to make sure that the actors are doing what we said we were committed to doing.
Okay.
So they can challenge us, like, are you really exploring that aspect of the character as deeply as you could? I'm not seeing it out here. Because ultimately, we could be acting in our living rooms if we just want to feel something, you know, or I can do that on the street in New York. A lot of people do that, right?
Yeah, I've seen that the last couple days.
Right, but we're telling a story for an audience. We're trying to share with those people. Our slogan is voyeurism simplified, and the idea is that a voyeur needs an exhibitionist, and vice versa. So our audience is the voyeur. We are the exhibitionists, but the game is that we pretend that the other isn't there. And we need them. So we have to be aware that we're telling a story for a group of people to a certain end.
So wait, let me ask you. So there's a fourth wall
Yep.
theater. Is this gone? Do you at any point stop in your show and say, what do you all think? Or a response that's given from the audience, you kind of go and take it? Or is it really just, is it traditional theater?
It's traditional in that if we're doing a play that has been published, and if there's no audience interaction written into the script, we want to honor what the playwright has written.
Right.
However, there is a natural synergy between an audience and its performers. So if someone were to have a coughing fit in the audience, we can't ignore that. That happens, or snoring.
Or texting.
Right? That's not a comment on our work at all. Of course not.
Right.
People just come to sleep at the theater. I don't know. But so we can't ignore that. So the idea is, how can we organically deal with that interruption that has happened to everyone and live it? Because that's the circumstance we're in right now.
Okay, but the problem with that is that nowadays we have a problem with this.
Yep.
Is that dealt with? I mean,
I haven't noticed that problem at all.
you haven't noticed them texting and...
No.
Nope.
Wow.
Not at all.
No,
I think
I mean,
there's a lot of sensitivity to it in New York that doesn't
Like
necessarily
a
happen.
respect for
everywhere.
theater?
Yeah, I think.
Wow.
I really don't notice a lot of texting while performances
That's
are going
crazy.
on.
Because being in Las Vegas and doing Cirque du Soleil,
Sure.
theater of 2000, you look out there and everybody's like freaking out and doing their deal, and they're like texting their friends and Facebooking them. So I'm very surprised, but not surprised in the sense that there's a sense of respect that when you're doing theater, no one really thinks anybody's doing theater in Las Vegas. So but the point is that that's actually a very refreshing thing to hear, that does exist, that there is a sense of respect. Because I would think that at this day and age, and I see it all the time, that everybody's like freaking on their deal, and they're not paying attention. So that's good to know.
People are too busy documenting their experiences to actually live their experiences, and
That's something
too
that,
often.
yeah, that's something that I wish would be something you hear across the board all around the United States. But I don't know if you hear that. Okay, what's your name?
I'm Alexandra.
Okay, Alexandra.
Hi.
Tell me how you got started in doing this, and I promise, guys, I'll be asking you questions.
This being the singing place, or this being acting in general, or
I'll take both. So I guess the question is, chicken or the egg, which came first?
Oh, definitely. I started acting, or I started acting, schmacting with a capital A, acting, when I was...
Schmacking with a capital S?
S-C-H.
It's with a capital... I don't know.
One should never do it.
I should never do it, but I did it, and I didn't know why I was doing it. I made my first forays into acting at college, and I knew I was bad, but I didn't know why I was bad.
Wow. That's
I
a
just
very amazing
could
thing.
feel
as an
that
actor, to know.
it was not working. That other people were finding things and living, and I was the only thing I felt on stage was this terror at forgetting my lines, and
Wow.
that's not what people feel in real life. Like, I'm never in my living room thinking, "Oh God, what's my next line?" That's just not. It's not true.
But that is the actor's nightmare.
That is the actor's
Or
nightmare.
a
and
line from Chorus Line.
trust me, I have plenty of nightmares of that in my life. But I came after getting some actual technique. I found this group of actors who believe in living on stage,
Okay.
who believe in being moment to moment and not forcing yourself, not expecting yourself to feel something, not expecting yourself to do anything just because you planned to. And there's this real spirit of living on stage and discovering each moment as it comes. And I think that's the only way that you can have theater, really. And I think that's the way that all theater should be. And sometimes it's not possible for many reasons, and I think it's beautiful that we're here together trying to make it possible in this little pocket.
So let me ask you a question. You are one of the co-founders of this group.
I am.
I'm assuming you started acting before this.
Yes.
Good answer. But let me ask you, because what it seems to me is that the method of what you're doing really allows you actually a little bit more, or maybe a lot more, fulfillment in what you're doing, because you're not constantly being judged and giving notes and so on by people that are outside of the group coming in. Is it a safer space, I guess is what I'm asking, to do theater?
I don't know that I would call it a safer space than other places. I mean, I think that the director's like number one job, if the director has a job,
Sure.
is to create a safe space for the actors to work in. I mean, so that if we look at direction from the perspective of like, I don't know, what is it, like 90% of good directing is good casting? Right. Then at least 5 of the other percent is creating a safe space for those people that were cast to actually do the work that they can do.
All right. But
So-
I guess the question, sorry to interrupt you. I guess the where I'm going with this question is that you have, it's almost like doing theater with your best friends. It's
Sure.
like going from one show to another show, and you go, oh, we gotta leave these people. What a great cast I had with that show. But it's like, it seems to me that you're going from piece to piece, and again, because you are constantly building on relationships, you're able to try maybe something different. You know, you're more challenged. I don't know. Are there benefits from doing this as opposed to just going from show to show in New York?
Well, absolutely. I mean, one of the difficulties in going from show to show anywhere is that we're forced to accept general rules of theater, so that we have a very different way of working than the mainstream theater world does. It's really hard if you're trying to do anything of particular artistic benefit to yourself to get that in every project that you go to,
Sure.
unless you are creating the sort of circumstances that can fulfill that.
Right.
Which is what we set out to do.
Right.
And one of the main difficulties in that, if you look at many of the theaters in New York and in the rest of the country, is that you'll get an amazing production at a theater company, and then the next production that they do has nothing to do with how that first production worked.
Sure.
And a lot of that is just that when you get these new artists that come in, they don't have a way to work together. That they basically do what we've all been told to do, so we're going to block a play and do it like that. But then we get lucky if it goes well,
Sure.
or if it doesn't go well. So it's completely luck-based, as opposed to us doing something together and sharing a story and getting together and really figuring out what that story is and how we're going to bring our imaginations to life in order to tell it. And that is what we do.
Great. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Would you say that in doing this, how long have you been with the group?
That's what is it, like 6, 7 months? I don't know.
Since August?
Yeah, August or so.
Yeah.
Would you say that doing this has actually made you better at auditioning? I mean, I guess the question would be, do you audition outside of this?
I will do it just because auditioning is just a craft in itself.
Sure it is.
That's a thing to keep fresh.
Right.
Even if I'm not looking for something to do at the
It's
moment.
that muscle that needs to be
You know, because like they're looking for something very specific, and like oftentimes like a minute and a half process. Which, if I, then especially here, it's like when you work on things and when you're experimenting, and we're going to try something. They don't want to see that so much. They want to see what you can bring right then. So
Right.
it's, I'd say, it hasn't necessarily encouraged me to audition more in that I'm using this kind of work.
Sure.
But I'd say that in auditioning more, I've naturally brought this kind of work
Okay.
to it. The kind of spontaneity, the kind of just like, right now, this is what I got.
Right.
Which, what else can you ask for?
Confidence? I mean, is this a confidence builder? I mean, you do this and you're working in the midst of people where you're constantly, to me, it was like a long time ago when I was doing everything, I was a clown and all this stuff, I did a lot of balloon art. But what I purposely did was I went around and did restaurant stuff because I knew that I had to hit the guy that was the biggest, excuse, I'll bleep this asshole. And I knew that if I got that person, usually the dad, at the table, I could then win it over and I'd be making a lot of tips. Point being that it gave me great improvisational skills. So I ask you, has this given you good improvisational skills and confidence that if you do go out, it's like public speaking. Do you gain something other than the fact that you're really good at grabbing a script and tearing it apart with your friends that are fellow actors? Do you have more confidence by doing this?
I have confidence in my ability to live in the here and now, which I think is a lot of improvisation,
Acting.
where it's like you wanna plan things, you know, and a lot of acting is you gotta learn lines, right? And you gotta learn your monologue and things like that. But as far as improvisational skills,
Right.
it's really more just a confidence booster that what I have, whether it's today or tomorrow at noon or tomorrow at 5 when I'm a little tired or whatever,
Sure.
that's what I've got at the time.
Sure.
You know, so it takes away a little bit that fear of trying to impress, that trying to cater to some sort of audience, which it seems like a paradox. It's
Right.
exactly what you're doing, but if you put that pressure on yourself, you're gonna do neither.
Right.
So you might as well, if you're there for 2 minutes, just give them what you got. The same thing as on our stage in our plays, like without the blocking, without all these constrictions, you have the freedom to give what you got on a Wednesday instead of a Thursday.
I got you.
So it's not so much in gathering improvisational skills, but it's a confidence in yourself as an actor acting at any sort of time.
Which is great, because then you walk into somewhere, you say, "This is who I am." You got your tricks worked out. You got your things worked out.
You worry less about who's on the other side of the table, or the time of the day, or the difficulty of the script. It takes a lot of pressure off of you, which allows you to just do your job.
So you two have put this all together, and now hearing people, I don't know how often you ask the people that have joined your group these questions, but knowing what they've said about what this group is that the goal that you tried to reach when you first came up with this thing? You go, oh, I got an idea, I want to do this so I get a chance to perform, and now I've done it, and oh, great, I'm happy. Are you seeing, and are you, like, does that make you feel all warm inside when you, when you hear people say this is what they got from what you're doing?
I think there's a tendency for theater companies and for artistic directors and directors and actors and all sorts of people to try to say that they've got the new really cool thing that they're doing and to suggest that they're doing the best work that's out there.
True.
And I don't profess that our work is that.
Right.
But what it is that we're sharing a story. We're not focused on impressing anyone in doing so. We're focused on sharing a story. So when I listen to you ask questions about whether this has influenced auditioning and other sorts of things like that, one of the main issues that all of us deal with in public speaking, and theater very much is public speaking in a sort of way, is that we have to learn how to get our attention off of how people are responding and rather onto what am I trying to say here.
Sure. Right.
And so what we have done in this company is really nothing new. It's not like crazy world-changing stuff that we're doing. Stanislavski figured all this out a long time ago and shared it with all sorts of people, and just that our theater at some point made a change, not really made a change, our theater at some point decided that, not our theater as a global thing, that what we're interested in showing people is a very polished sort of packaged thing where it's going to look the exact same every day. But that's not what all of our training has led us to.
Right.
So what we've created is a place for us to be able to do our work. And that's really all we're doing, to tell our stories through our work.
Right. Well, but I have to say that, you know, based upon everything I know, that you are doing something different. I mean, you may not acknowledge that, and that's okay, and that's great.
It's different from the mainstream, but it's not different in terms of, it's not like wildly new.
No.
Is what I'm saying.
Well, the outcome is what we traditionally would expect you would want from a piece, is that we do it, we appreciate it, we understand it, and then they go, oh, that's great. I like the comment that you said that basically we're not waiting for you to go for us to get the approval. It's in the midst of what we do. So I ask you, what's the future look like? Where is Scene gonna go?
We are, well, first of all, because we're actor driven, it's very important that we provide a living wage to actors. And as a small theater company in New York, in order to move up through the ranks of Actors Equity, we actually, Actors Equity takes you through a very slow pace so that you set up your business in the right way.
Right.
So it's much slower than we want, but it's the right way for us to go so that we can actually have some longevity.
Sure.
So the hope is that 2, 3, 4 years we're paying somewhat of a living wage to actors, so that and not only do we have ensemble members in the group, but we're also the staff members in the group, so that we will have day jobs for actors as well who are helping the theater run every day, and then also getting paid for our work as artists. So I think that's a long-term financial goal for us. And I think that what we're up to in New York, one of the struggles that we've had since we do published works, where here in New York, those are known as revivals, quote unquote. So, and New York is a town that breeds new work.
Right.
So a young company that wants to do published plays is actually an anomaly and not terribly welcome. And we're bucking that trend, and we say that there is something new when a new group of actors puts together a work of art and uses this playwright's words that have been tested over 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, or 70 years in the vernacular, or even more for doing Shakespeare. And there is value to a group of artists now telling our story now, and that makes it new and exciting. So my hope as a theater company is that we start to make it okay for young companies to do published work, and that we can be taken as seriously as you might take those companies that are doing groundbreaking new works, like Labyrinth Theater Company, doing incubating works over time, and many, many others that are doing the same thing. That's just the first that popped to mind. But that's my long-term hope.
Well, no, that's good, and you know, I have to tell you that about Actors Equity, it's great that they do go through that, because like, I don't know about here, but in LA they give away SAG cards like they're freaking, Kool-Aid candy. Yeah. You know, they just, well, you like one, I take one. Anyway, it's changed, and that doesn't mean you have any. There's no reality to the talent. It's just what happens. Okay, all right. So give us the URL again.
It's sceneplacetheater.com, SEEINGPLACETHEATER.com.
Theater the way it should be spelled.
That's right.
All right,
An American.
There.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, right. So wait a second. None of
We're
you have
arguing
British
because
accents, and by the way, I was
We can
told
all speak in British.
Yes, you can, but
We can
don't,
all-
because all my casting friends in LA casting directors say that seems to be taking over all the films.
Oh,
We don't
no.
need that.
Uh-oh.
All right, hey, Will
Speaking
Roberts
about-
Weekly Telegram. Of course, go to our site, willsays.com. Check it out, and you can get this, of course, on SoundCloud. Or if you're one of the 38 stations, let us know if you're interested in hearing this on your area, wherever you happen to be. Every time I say that, this young lady laughs.
No, I was
going on
giggling
over
because I was photobombing.
Oh, you were photobombing.
Sorry.
Great. I'll
Sorry.
quickly edit her out of the piece. All right. Hey, Will Roberts Weekly Telegram. We'll be right back after this break.